Here in video lecture 6.1, we'll begin to look at the Earth's surface and why it looks the way it does. Previously, we've looked at Earth-Sun relationships, temperature, precipitation, weather, climate. Now we'll actually focus in on the Earth's surface. First, we need to differentiate between three different rocks, beginning with igneous, which is the origins of the other rocks. And so the other rocks that we're going to talk about, metamorphic and sedimentary, come from bits and pieces of igneous rock that might change over time. So igneous rock is the base of all of the earth materials that we'll be looking at. What is igneous rock? It forms from the solidification of molten material. So essentially the entire Earth's surface at one time was nothing but volcanoes and eruptions and all of that. Eventually all of that material hardens, and as it hardens, it then forms, of course, rock. So most of the rock we find on Earth's surface is an igneous rock. Next up is metamorphic, and so this could be an igneous or a sedimentary rock that over time changes. Now, to make it change, it requires extreme things, and so extreme heat or extreme pressure. So we'll look at a couple examples of metamorphic rock. Next up would be sedimentary rock, and this is just derived from bits and pieces of other rocks, actually more than just rocks, as we'll look at when we look at limestone, actually bits and pieces of actual marine life, marine carcasses of various things that used to live in a shallow sea forms limestone. So sedimentary rocks, for the most part, we're going to think of it as bits and pieces of other rocks. Could be metamorphic, could be igneous. And what happens here is weathering and erosion occur. So weathering and erosion we'll come back to and talk more about in a following video lecture. There are two key types of processes that shape the land on Earth. First off, internal processes that build up or create land, create structures. And so in this case here, we see this rugged topography, this steep slopes. Well, that rock was created from something, and that something was from internal processes. Could be tectonics, volcanoes, or earthquakes that build up these structures. That's going to be the focus of video lecture 6, is the internal process, this process that build up and create new land. Whereas in video lecture 7 and 8, we're going to be focusing on the external processes, the processes over time, mostly climate, temperature, precipitation, that remove and wither away these structures and change them over time. And so we have the creators, but then we have the removers. This video lecture 6 is going to be focusing on the creation of new land, whereas in video lecture 7 and 8 we're going to be focusing in on weathering and erosion and the removing and the changing of these landforms, because that's the key as far as what we're going to be doing in exam 3, is we're trying to understand the shape of the land. Here we have what would be referred to as an initial landform, created by volcanic and tectonic activity. And so we would refer to this as those internal processes that created this land feature. However, we know over atmospheric influences are going to weather and erode away and remove sediment from that initial landform. So then we have what we refer to as these sequential landforms, or these external processes that then alter what was first that initial landform. We can showcase these internal and external processes first off by looking at the Rocky Mountains on the top and the Appalachian Mountains on the bottom. The Rocky Mountains are younger because we see that they're first off taller, and so those internal processes have created these structures, but the external processes, the Appalachian Mountains, because they're older, they've had more time for those external processes to round them down, to make them essentially more like hills compared to the Rocky Mountains, which are much taller and have those snow-capped steep slope tops of those summits of the mountains there off in the distance there. So we can see these external processes and how over time they affect places differently. In this case, the Rocky Mountains are taller than the Appalachian Mountains for that reason.